Okay, we're going to talk about fresh water. That's water without any salt. We say fresh or clean water. Where do we get it? From precipitation. Rain, snow, hail, sleet, frozen rain. Sometimes that water will, rain down and then immediately be evaporated back to the sky. Sometimes it'll rain or snow and that rain or snow will soak right into the ground. And sometimes it rains or snows and that water just runs right off. It's called runoff. So think of rivers. So here's a river, a large river, and then another river's coming in to join it, and those rivers are joining up together. Those other rivers that join into a main river, those are called tributaries. All those different river and water areas that are run off, and that becomes this area called a watershed, or all of those bits and pieces of water, rain and stuff goes to one area. There's different kinds of standing water. One of them's like a pond. Of course, that's small. And then you can have, a huge lake even, all the way up to there. And you can also find fresh water in wetlands. There's grass and it's really wet underneath. And you might even see some standing water sometimes. And sometimes of the year you do and sometimes you don't. But it's always really wet. There's 3 different kinds of wetlands: marsh, swamp, and bog. Sometimes you see marshes near the ocean, near the coast, and there may be a mixture of fresh versus salt water in those areas. That's sometimes called a saltwater marsh. Mangrove, that's another mangrove forest, is another kind of marsh or wetlands. What about a glacier? Okay, a glacier is fresh water. Frozen ice and snow, frozen snow, and then sometimes they'll break off and it'll become an iceberg. So that glacier, it slowly moves, but it does move, and it's eroding away at the land, and it'll pick up dirt and gravel and rocks, boulders, and move it on down. And then those will head off into the, possibly in an iceberg. So it's important to understand that underground water, so it rains or precipitates and the water embeds or goes into the ground. And sometimes you can find it in the soil underground, or sometimes even in layers of rocks. There'll be a water layer. And when that water goes in, it saturates. And that word saturated, that water can go through, it can saturate the rock. But when that is completely full of water, it's called saturated. It can't hold any more water. And then there's what we call the water table. So that's that top layer of where the water underground, of course. And you can't really add more water to that. So that layer of water, it's a big, huge storage of water. It's called an aquifer. Let me spell that again. Aquifer. And those are layers of rocks, but there's layers of water in there as well. Could be a small one or a big one, the size of several states. A well is a big tube or a hole. People have made something like that, like a well, to go down to the water and find it. Artesian well, now that's the natural one, but the water itself is coming up from that aquifer under pressure, and it's coming up and comes up through the ground, and so you can see the water there. Or a natural spring, there's water bubbling up. It's not a volcanic, it's just water slowly bubbling up. And sometimes you can even see a rock or a cliff wall with water dripping off of it. You ever seen a geyser? Like at Yellowstone? Old Faithful? and it's blowing water out, really hot water, that's called a geyser.